Post-Millennial reports Kamala adopts another Trump policy, pledges hundreds of millions to build the wall.
I told you she was going to do this.
Bravo to you.
This debate is going to be hilarious. So Trump's agreed to the debate. What's it going to be? They're going to be like former President Trump. You would like to build a wall. And Kamala goes, I want to build a wall. I'm building a wall. And then Trump's going to be like, okay.
I'm doing that too. And then she'll be way shorter. She'll be like, me too. Yeah.
That's why she wanted to sit down at a desk.
Do you think they'll give her either extra high heels or some telephone books to stand on or something?
This is interesting because I wonder if they are going to request something to level. So that,
I think they want her to look shorter. Like, if someone on their campaign is smart enough to be like, no, you want to be shorter, because if Trump seems
like
at
the
all
underdog.
aggressive,
Yeah.
then everyone's going to be like, oh, he can't be mean to ladies. That's not nice.
He can't be mean to that little girl on the stage.
That little girl, that was me.
yeah. I think he should.
Is Tim Walz going to be with her on the debates?
Probably. Behind her, fanning her,
With the
cheering her
Doritos,
on.
the bags of Doritos.
Oh, my
He
God.
throws her a bag of Doritos.
Right?
during the
Or
debate.
maybe we'll
Emotional
get to
support
see
vice
his
president.
tuna mayonnaise taco.
I'm just surprised, honestly, that, because usually Democrats are that's one of their big issues, right? To demonize Republicans is with immigration. So why do you think she's now responding to pressure on this issue?
Because black community members in Chicago were screaming, we are being replaced.
Yeah.
So when the great replacement theory reaches black neighborhoods in Chicago, the media's got a big problem on their hands.
Yeah.
And Trump consistently led on the issues that actually matter, right? He led on immigration, he led on crime, he led on the economy. And that's one of the reasons he did well in his debate with Biden, which is that he could always return to the issues and be like, things are bad and I will fix them. This guy's in office and made them worse. And I think, frankly, it's the sort of same argument with Harris, right? She's in office and either she is complicit by doing nothing or she's that ignorant, at which point, why would you put her back in the White House with more responsibility?
Something that I just want to say about the current crisis, because this is something that you might not hear a lot, and something that I have learned through my reporting in Latin America is I know people make the point a lot that a lot of our immigration issues right now on the border are blowback from our meddling regime change wars, yada, yada. But there's another element that people might not realize. For example, right now we have Venezuelans primarily coming into the country. I wrote a whole book. I don't want to give the whole spiel about how we destabilize that country, but I think I spell it out pretty clearly in the book. What people might not realize is, so Trump, he did launch this policy to recognize a shadow government and really aggressively sanction their country, really strangle it to the point that people were wanting to leave and they'd left and gone all around Latin America. It wasn't until Biden came in and agreed to grant Venezuelans temporary protected status that they actually started coming to the United States, because that's pretty much a green light. You can work before you have a green card and all these you get special treatment. It's like wet foot, dry foot that we had for Cubans. But a lot of people get here and actually realize they don't have a great life. They're living in tents. Maybe life was better back home. The Venezuelan government actually has a policy where, and they've done this all throughout South America, where they've chartered Venezuelan government planes to bring people back to the country, repatriate. It's called Vuelta a la Patria. It's an official program. They've done it with hundreds, if not thousands of people now. And I had a conversation with the Venezuelan foreign minister in New York a few months ago, and he represents the government that actually controls the borders and the ministries of Venezuela that we don't recognize because we recognize the shadow government. And he said they want to do that with the United States. They've reached out. They've even tried to work with the UN to start to try and see if there are any Venezuelans who want to go back. And it's because we don't recognize that government that we can't actually have a remedy to this crisis. And it makes you wonder why. We don't even have an embassy functioning. In Washington, D.C. right now, there is no Venezuelan embassy. It's empty. And yet we have millions of people coming here who need services. So it's just an example of how this is an issue that gets weaponized by both parties, but it seems in some ways there could be a solution, like not destroying countries and then having relations with them.
Well, I want to say something that actually was surprising to me, that up until not that long ago, actually, Venezuela had U.S. visa on entry. And I was actually surprised to learn that when I went to Venezuela, that I could just walk in. Americans. Yes. And Americans are allowed to, at the time, now you require a visa, and it's heavily restricted as things have gotten substantially worse. But I went, I think it was 2014.
Oh, wow.
And I was surprised to learn. You walk up, you say, I'm an American. They say, welcome to Venezuela. It was that easy.
Well,
Granted, I had to flee the country because they accused me of being CIA, but that's a different
well,
story.
that's a different story.
Yeah.
But why is it though that the Biden-Harris administration admits, like it's sort of an open door policy for like 30,000 Venezuelans among other countries per month?
I don't know.
Why is it?
Well, I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it's Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua.
So I was
Well, it's
looking.
not just Venezuelans.
No. It's like a selection of countries that are really going
Oh,
through
well,
it.
those are countries that we've like uniquely targeted with
Yeah.
regime change over the last year.
And
I can give another example because
I'm just curious as to your take because you
So
know
I've
a lot
spent
about
a lot of time in Nicaragua as well, where the United States funded very violent riots in 2018 to try to overthrow the government. We have harsh sanctions on the country. We've seized a lot of their assets. And earlier this year, I went to Nicaragua and I passed through El Salvador. And, I saw firsthand the flight I was told about in the media of people coming from North Africa and Africa, it seemed mainly, filtering through the Salvadoran airport. The Salvadoran government has a policy where they won't let them out, but they'll let them on. So they went next to Nicaragua. I've never been on a full flight from El Salvador to Nicaragua like that before, but it was all mainly African, North African, even some Chinese migrants. And Nicaragua used to have a policy where they would not let any of those people out of the airport because they were coordinating with us to slow the immigration, to slow migration. And people wouldn't even bother going there. But since we've tried to overthrow their government, strangle and strangled their economy, they've actually started letting people out. They even have a special visa for those people, so all they have to do is pay and go on. And it's pretty much, if you ask people in the street, why is this happening? They're like, yeah, the U.S. tried to mess with us. Now it's kind of revenge. And so it's the kind of thing that has a very simple solution. If you're the United States and you want to stop that, go to the Nicaraguan government, say, we're going to release your assets. We're going to end sanctions. We're going to stop trying to meddle in your affairs. Just please go back to this policy of stopping the flow of migration to the U.S. southern border. And yet, for some reason, that won't happen. It is because I'm left with no other conclusion that they want people coming here.
They want it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they definitely want it.
I went over the numbers. California has estimated 2.7 to 3 million illegal immigrants living in the state. They're getting extra congressional votes. For Republicans to win a presidential election, they need to overcome the Democrats' bonus 5 to 6 electoral votes. That's insane. And the same thing is true for Republicans in Congress as well. Congress, because Democrats are getting around 5 to 6 additional congressional seats based on the amount of illegal immigrants they've allowed into the country, who don't get to vote, who don't get a say in the matter, Republicans have to have a majority greater. So this is basically Democrats operating on a political handicap. Republicans have to work extra hard to get extra seats to be able to overcome that advantage that they've cheated to give themselves. So they certainly want these people to come in.
Yeah, they want it so that they just maintain their power because it's really just a power
Because
struggle.
It could be easily solved. You could even start sending some of these people back, not with massive deportations, voluntarily. And the other governments might, like I said, the Venezuelan government would happily charter planes to do so because they've done it elsewhere. So why aren't we doing that if it's such an issue for people? It's the U.S., our government obviously doesn't care about our people here. And that's the only conclusion I can draw from it.
Have you spent time in Venezuela? So I went down there. And my view is, while I certainly think the U.S. has policies, let's just say, not aligned with helping Venezuela function properly, I'll keep it as light as I can, the U.S. is absolutely against Venezuela and has policies that harm and damage the economy there. I certainly think that their own policies have done this to themselves to a great degree as well.
Well, I would argue that no Venezuelan government official that I've ever talked to denies that there's corruption. Venezuela is a petro state ever since.
I don't mean corruption. I mean the function of their economy doesn't work.
Okay, well, let me give an example of someone that I profile in the book. His name is Francisco Rodriguez. He's a Harvard-educated economist who worked in the Venezuelan government and got into fights with Maduro way back in the early 2000s when Maduro was a legislator. He's been in the U.S. since, working on Wall Street. He's heavily opposed to Chavismo and Maduro's government. But because he actually cares about the people of his homeland, doesn't support this aggressive U.S. policy of attempting to strangle their economy and cause suffering in the country. And he actually conducted a thorough academic study with his Harvard chops and his Wall Street chops and I can pull up the page somewhere in the book because there's a picture. I actually show a chart that he produced. Venezuela's economy is entirely dependent on oil, and he shows through time series data that every major drop in Venezuelan oil production occurred directly after a U.S. sanction was issued on the country.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it is a smoking gun implicating the U.S. and Venezuela's economic downturn. And he said, the quote that he gave me is, and of course, because he's in the opposition, he says, of course, the economy was being mismanaged. It was, it's not perfectly run, but nobody was predicting a major crash in the oil market or in their oil industry or in their economy that they saw. And so without that U.S. intervention, there's just an absolute, and he's not the only expert that I turn to in the book.
And I agree with that. I just think that the function of their economy doesn't make sense.
Which part of it? Well, this is the thing about it. It's not a socialist economy where everything's controlled by the state.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.